If I'm on the jury in the Karen Read murder case and they use the testimony of her saying, I hit him as a confession, I immediately vote to acquit because I've seen this movie.
We went out to the car and that's it.
When'd you shoot him?
What?
At what point did you shoot the clerk?
I shot the clerk.
Yes, when did you shoot him?
I shot the clerk.
Hey, Dean, we need you out here. I'm in the middle of a damn confession here.
Now, that's probably not one of the scenes from My Cousin Vinny that you remember most prominently, but it shows exactly how a person in a situation where they're being charged with something can sit there and say, wait, what? Asking questions in a way because they're confused and they're stunned and you can tell they're asking, but the person on the receiving end wants so badly to blame somebody for it that they take it as a confession. The prosecution has filed second-degree murder charges against her because what they're saying happened was Karen Read and her boyfriend John O'Keefe were in their SUV. She dropped him off at a house party. So they'd been out drinking in a bar with all of these other people, other cops and other people that they knew. One of the guys said, hey, let's take this back to my house. Karen takes her boyfriend John to this party and she drops him off and she heads home. That's the last she sees of him. What they're saying is that when she was backing up to turn and leave the neighborhood, she hit him with the SUV because she was drunk and left him to die in the snow. That's their story, second-degree murder charges. Her attorney is saying, we think this is all a big cover-up. We think this is that she's being framed and that something happened to John O'Keefe when he went inside that house. And what's surprising to me is that there is a ton of evidence that does not match up. And I'm not a forensic scientist, but I would think this. If you got hit and they're saying her back taillight was broken. If you got hit with the back right corner of the vehicle, I would think the taillight would probably hit you probably at least waist high is probably how high it is. There would probably be some internal bleeding. There would probably be some damages, no doubt. But I can't understand how he got what they're describing as like a gigantic goose egg, like a big black bulb on his eye, like he'd been beaten. His nose was bleeding, his mouth was bleeding, he had cuts in the back of his head. His arm had cuts all up and down it that was reminiscent of like dog bites. They think it was dog bites on his arm. Like he had some injuries that are not consistent with being hit with the back end of an SUV. The defense is saying John O'Keefe went in the house, someone jumped him. One of the kids at the party had all these bloody, there's pictures of him the next day with these bloody knuckles. They're saying that he got beat and then they threw him out in the snow and left him to die. And then when they realized that they needed to cover it all up, they all worked in cahoots. A good number of the people at that party were either local police for the Canton Police Department, they work for the ATF, they have friends in the FBI, like they're all connected through this whole big police web. Yet they managed to suddenly get rid of text messages. They're claiming all the calls that happened at 2 a.m. that night were butt dials. One of the guys who was collecting evidence, because there was blood in the snow, he scooped up the snow in red Solo cups. Like watching one episode of Law and Order would tell you, you don't fucking do that with the evidence. In my opinion, this is an absolute sham. Luckily, this gal has herself a real bulldog of an attorney. This thing is huge and we should all be paying attention to it because it can show you how corrupt, allegedly, a small town police force can be when they all stick together like this. And this poor woman, I really honestly do believe she's innocent. Probably at worst, she was drinking and driving, and I think the taillight was busted out because she hit another vehicle in the street. And they're lying about the vehicle even being in the street. So none of their testimony lines up. Like it's just a big fucking mess. If you were a police officer and a fellow police officer was found dead in your yard and you honestly believe that his girlfriend was mad at him and ran him over with her vehicle, then I would think you would do everything in your power to bring forth every bit of evidence. And all of your testimony that night, every single one of you would give sworn statements. Every single one of you would hand over your cell phones. Every single one of you would want to do everything on the up and up so that you could help get her convicted. And instead, what you've got is you've got people deleting text messages, maybe even faking them, allegedly. You've got a guy lying about what happened to his knuckles. You've got the owner of the house who, for some reason, was allowed to renovate the basement where the party was and replace all the flooring, sell the house, and get rid of the dog. Nothing suspicious about that. They've got one of the other cops who I don't know if he was at the party or somebody called him, but he was off duty, but yet he went into the station and logged in a couple of times during the night when he wasn't even supposed to be there. Like, there's all kinds of really suspicious behavior on behalf of all of these cops. And when you see them on the stand, when you see this one woman on the stand, she actually Googled, how long does it take to die in the cold or something like that. The forensics shows that she Googled that at 2 something in the morning. And when she's on the stand, she goes, well, I disagree with your notion or something like that. And it's like, bitch, it's not a notion. It's fucking forensic science that was pulled from your own cell phone. These people are not even good liars. So I'm just barely scratching the surface. I could make 15 videos about this, and maybe I will, because I'm finding this case so fascinating. There are people, and I've tagged them below, there are people on here that have dedicated a lot of time and a lot of energy to covering this every single day. Please, if you're interested, go follow them, because this is a really, really crooked case. And it shows what happens when people who are in positions of authority get themselves in trouble, or someone in their family or their circle gets themselves in trouble, the lengths they will go through to allegedly cover it up. And that includes possibly throwing an innocent woman in jail for the rest of her life.